assent which followed it showed plainly that almost all who were present acquiesced in the justice of the accusation. Incensed, and at the same time mortified, he yet foresaw that to give way to this headlong resentment would be to give the cold and wary accuser the advantage over him which it was the Templars' principal object to obtain. He therefore, with a strong effort, remained silent till he had repeated a pater noster, being the course which his confessor had enjoined him to pursue when anger was likely to obtain dominion over him. The King then spoke with composure, though not without an embittered tone, especially at the outset. "And is it even so? And are our brethren at such pains to note the infirmities of our natural temper, and the rough precipitance of our zeal, which may sometimes have urged us to issue commands when there was little time to hold counsel? I could not have thought that offences, casual and unpremeditated like mine, could find such deep root in the hearts of my allies in this most holy cause. That for my sake they should withdraw their hands from the plough when the furrow was near the end, for my sake turn aside from the direct path to Jerusalem which their swords have opened. I vainly thought that my small services might have overweighed my rash errors, that if it were remembered that I pressed to the van in the assault, it would not be forgotten that I was ever the last in the retreat; that if I elevated my banner upon conquered fields of battle, it was all the advantage that I sought, while others were dividing the spoil. I may have called the conquered city by my name, but it was to others that I yielded the dominion. If I have been headstrong in urging bold counsels, I have not, methinks, spared my own blood or my people's in carrying them into a bold execution. Or if I have, in the hurry of march or battle, assumed a command over the soldiers of others, such have been ever treated as my own when my wealth purchased the provisions and medicines which their own sovereigns could not procure. But it shames me to remind you of what all but myself seems to have forgotten. Let us rather look forward to our future measures. And believe me, brethren," he continued, his face kindling with eagerness, "you shall not find the pride, or the wrath, or the ambition of Richard a stumbling block of offence in the path to which religion and glory summon you as with the trumpet of an archangel. Oh, no, no! Never would I survive the thought that my frailties and infirmities had been the means to sever this godly fellowship of assembled princes. I would cut off my left hand with my right, could my doing so attest my sincerity. I will yield up, voluntarily, all right to command in the host, even mine own liege subjects. They shall be led by such sovereigns as you may nominate, and their king, ever but too apt to exchange the leader's baton for the adventurer's lance, will serve under the banner of Buissant among the Templars, ay, or under that of Austria, if Austria will name a brave man to lead his forces. Or if ye are yourselves aweary of this war, and feel your armour chafe your tender bodies, leave but with Richard some 10,000 or 15,000 of your soldiers to work out the accomplishment of your vow. And when Zion is won," he exclaimed, waving his hand aloft, as if displaying the standard of the cross over Jerusalem, "when Zion is won, we will write upon her gates, not the name of Richard Plantagenet, but of those generous princes who entrusted him with the means of conquest." The rough eloquence and determined expression of the military monarch at once roused the drooping spirits of the Crusaders, reanimated their devotion, and, fixing their attention on the principal object of the expedition, made most of them who were present blush for having been moved by such petty subjects of complaint as had before engrossed them. Eye caught fire from eye, voice lent courage to voice. They resumed, as with one accord, the war cry with which the sermon of Peter the Hermit was echoed back, and shouted aloud, "Lead us on, gallant lion's heart, none so worthy to lead where the brave men follow. Lead us on, to Jerusalem, to Jerusalem. It is the will of God, it is the will of God. Blessed is he who shall lend an arm to its fulfilment." The shout, so suddenly and generally raised, was heard beyond the ring of sentinels who guarded the pavilion of council, and spread among the soldiers of the host, who, inactive and dispirited by disease and climate, had begun, like their leaders, to droop in resolution. But the reappearance of Richard in renewed vigour, and the well-known shout which echoed from the assembly of the princes, at once rekindled their enthusiasm, and thousands and tens of thousands answered with the same shout of "Zion, Zion! War, war! Instant battle with the infidels! It is the will of God! It is the will of God!" The acclamations from without increased in their turn the enthusiasm which prevailed within the pavilion. Those who did not actually catch the flame were afraid, at least for the time, to seem colder than others. There was no more speech except of a proud advance towards Jerusalem upon the expiry of the truce, and the measures to be taken in the meantime for supplying and recruiting the army. The council broke up, all apparently filled with the same enthusiastic purpose, which, however, soon faded in the bosom of most, and never had an existence in that of others. Of the latter classes were the Marquis Conrad and the Grand Master of the Templars, who retired together to their quarters ill at ease, and malcontent with the events of the day. "I ever told it to thee," said the latter, with the cold, sardonic expression peculiar to him, "that Richard would burst through the flimsy wiles you have spread for him, as would a lion through a spider's web. Thou seest he has but to speak, and his breath agitates these fickle fools, as easily as the whirlwind catches scattered straws and sweeps them together, or disperses them at its pleasure." "When the blast has passed away," said Conrad, "the straws which it made dance to its pipe will settle to earth again." "But knowest thou not besides," said the Templar, "that it seems, if this new purpose of conquest shall be abandoned and pass away, and each mighty prince shall again be left to such guidance as his own scanty brain can supply, Richard may yet probably become King of Jerusalem by compact, and establish those terms of treaty with the Soldan which thou thyself thought him so likely to spurn at? Now, by Mahound and Termagaunt, for Christian oaths are out of fashion," said Conrad, "sayest thou the proud King of England would unite his blood with the heathen Soldan? My policy threw in that ingredient to make the whole treaty an abomination to him. As bad for us that he become our master by an agreement as by victory. Thy policy hath ill calculated Richard's digestion," answered the Templar. "I know his mind by a whisper from the Archbishop, and then thy master stroke respecting yonder banner, it has passed off with no more respect than 2 cubits of embroidered silk merited. Marquis Conrad, thy wit begins to halt. I will trust thy fine spun measures no longer, but will try my own. Knowest thou not the people whom the Saracens call Charegites?" "Surely," answered the Marquis. "They are desperate and besotted enthusiasts, who devote their lives to the advancement of religion, somewhat like Templars, only they are never known to pause in the race of their calling." "Jest not," answered the scowling monk. "Know that one of these men has set down in his bloody vow the name of the island emperor yonder, to be hewn down as the chief enemy of the Moslem faith." "Most judicious Paynim," said Conrad. "May Mohammed send him his paradise for a reward." "He was taken in the camp by one of our squires, and in private examination frankly avowed his fixed and determined purpose to me," said the Grand Master. "Now the heavens pardon them who prevented the purpose of this most judicious Charegite," answered Conrad. "He is my prisoner," added the Templar, "and secluded from speech with others, as thou mayest suppose. But prisons have been broken, chains left unlocked, and captives have escaped," answered the Marquis. "It is an ancient saying, no sure dungeon but the grave. When loose, he resumes his quest," continued the military priest, "for it is the nature of this sort of bloodhound never to quit the suit of the prey he has once scented." "Say no more of it," said the Marquis. "I see thy policy. It is dreadful, but the emergency is imminent." "I only told thee of it," said the Templar, "that thou mayest keep thyself on thy guard, for the uproar will be dreadful, and there is no knowing on whom the English may vent their rage. Ay, and there is another risk. My page knows the counsels of this Charegite.